wanted to leave you guys with just a few thoughts. We've really done so much together in the last couple days, and I hope that you all have enjoyed it as much as I have. I thought this was a really fantastic blend of the science and the management and the arts and the citizens and the professionals, and it's probably one of the best damn meetings I've ever been to be honest with you. So what do we do now? So I think this is a theme that I think we're pretty well on board with, but we have to make connections for people. Oftentimes I think our charge seems very difficult, but if you distill it right down to the nature of the matter, raise your hand if you don't drink water or use water or are not mostly comprised of water. This is actually a fairly easy issue to find common ground with people, because when you reach out to a neighbor or a family member and they say, well, this just doesn't affect me, baloney, and you can show them exactly how it affects them. So how do we reach out? We talk a lot about the choir and how do we get beyond the choir. And I think we all know that we have a big audience to reach, but leadership starts with everyone in this room, with each one of us, and it starts in our home, and then from there it goes to our neighbors and to our communities and outwards from there. We have something very big to accomplish, but it starts on a very small scale. Advocates are made, and it takes time, and probably a sure way to scare someone away is to run up to someone who hasn't been engaged in issues and start throwing bill numbers at them and overwhelm them. But we can be sneaky about it. Issues of water, we all live in communities. It can be as easy as sharing native plants from your garden with a neighbor, or putting an article in your community newsletter, or going to the neighborhood association meeting and sharing something. I don't live on a spring, but I do live on a water body that connects to the Indian River Lagoon. And my husband and I bought a house and we put down our roots there. And I think one of the things that we suffer from in Florida is so much transience. We don't have people who've been here, except for Mr. Dame, who's been here for 7 generations. Most of us have hardly been here for 7 years. Our neighborhoods are constantly in transition. And even if it's something as easy as trying to put on a community picnic just to get to know your neighbors, even if you don't talk about water, we have to start by connecting with each other simply as human beings. That is one thing we all have in common. So in this community that we've lived in, we got active. I met my neighbors by being outside working in my flower garden, and now I share plants with them so that they don't have to have as much grass. And we just had presentations about protecting the Indian River Lagoon, and I'm getting them excited about oysters by simply sharing the fact that one adult oyster can filter 50 gallons of water, and everyone in the room was amazed by that. And everyone understands that their property values are tied to what our bay looks like. And so we are starting very close to home. And we've gotten our soil and water conservation district involved, we've gotten our city involved, we've gotten so many different partners involved. But it started by having a conversation with our neighbors. And I know that you all already do so much, but if there's any way that you can connect more with your communities, I think that that is such a great place to start. The other thing that I think we need to focus on is that we can never forget to be kind. The Congresswoman at lunch today said that you can disagree but not be unkind. It's very easy to get frustrated. Raise your hand if you've ever gotten frustrated in this. Yeah, it's very easy to get a temper, and it's very easy to feel alone and to start pointing fingers. But I think that we should definitely strive for this idea of trying to be kind, and even more possibly importantly than being kind to the people that we view as being on the other side, we have to be nice to each other. We have to, at least for the people that are on our own side of the fence. We just have to respect each other, and we can never lose sight of that. The other thing that we need to do is, as we move forward from today, is work smarter, not harder. Meetings like this, the partnerships and alliances that we have started to form. I can't keep tabs on everything that's happening. I don't know anyone in this room who can. So it's really important that we have an organized network of people so that if you need something, you know how to find me. And if I need something, I know that I can count on you. And I think that if we're feeling alone, it means that we're not reaching out enough. And if we're seeing that someone's not taking action on an issue that we think is important, we should probably stop and make sure that they even know about it and take a time to send that message. While we do need to reach out and get beyond the choir, I think that there is an amazing amount of value in reaching back in and in reconnecting with one another. And again, I think that's why meetings like this are so important. We need to get re-energized. We need some temporary breaks from our frustration to realize that we are not alone and to support each other and to collaborate and find out how we can help one another. So at the end of the day, I really think that we can't win any of this without civics. I started my career as a scientist, and I'm turning into a politician because, seriously, I'm on the ballot in November. You can vote for me in Volusia County. I'm running unopposed, so. And I have Linda Meistrack to thank for that. She started talking about the soil and water conservation districts, and that exactly is what I'm running for. I figure it's a good way to show that you can work across the aisle, and then I'll start to infiltrate the rest of the system from there. So there are more of us who are concerned about water and our families and our future than those who are concerned only with short-term gain. But we just haven't been good enough at joining forces and really outpowering all of those special interests. And it's totally doable, and the numbers are absolutely in our favor. And we have to do this. There's simply, like, not doing it is not an option. That is the only way that we win. We have to come together, we have to stay together. And we really just need this infusion of civic pride and civic responsibility. I think we all know that, and it goes back to our communities, and it goes back to having those conversations. And, well, geez, if you like planting Dune sunflower in your yard, you might be interested to know that this issue's on the ballot or that issue's on the ballot. We have to have a conversation, and we have to let people know that they have power. I think people don't realize. They think that politics is for someone else. They think civics is for someone else. And since most of us live like this in front of our phones, we need to take every opportunity we can to make sure that our friends and our neighbors and our families all understand the power that they have in exercising that ability to vote and decide who goes into office. It seems so obvious, but I guarantee you that most people that you speak with will not realize it. And we can't just take our issues to the environmental meetings. If we get a group of citizens and they're willing to go to the water management district, well, then the next day we need to be marching them to the representative's office or the city council's office or whomever. We have to go to all the meetings because we have so much time on our hands, but we have to be able to make that connection. Representative Graham was here. She didn't know about something, so people in the audience had to tell her about it. We have to show up. They have to know it's important. They have to know that we're serious, and they have to know that we're the ones that are going to elect or not elect them. And I think that they don't hear from us enough. And so if we can all make one change, that would be profound if every single person did that. So I think that's pretty much it. There's one thing I wanted to mention. I went to an amazing meeting that Chris Costello and the Sierra Club, Marilee, and the other folks put on Everglades issues. And there was a woman there from the Seminole tribe, and her name was Betty Osceola. And she said something that has really stuck with me for the last month and a half since the meeting. we tend to think of this as a struggle and a fight and a war, and I think that tends to get our blood pressure up, and it tends to get us in this mind frame of being upset and being unsettled. And Betty Osceola mentioned that, the words of, fighting and war, that's not the way that we want to talk about our natural resources. We need to talk about nurturing our natural resources and protecting and caring for our natural resources. So I would urge you to keep that messaging in mind as you move forward in terms of being stewards and protectors and carers for the environment, and to try to keep that same compassion in your hearts that you have for the environment when you're out there and you're doing battle with these folks all the time. I think if we lead with compassion and we lead with each other and we stay side by side, there's no way that we can't win.